I mean, JayZ's on a whole nother level. Like, I mean, you know, true. He's like, but you know what I like about 50? 50's on a whole nother level, but he's still approachable. You still get to meet the people and you know, Jay gotta remember the people that made him. You know, I'm not saying I don't got respect. I respect JayZ, 50, used to respect, you know, Diddy, but all that crazy going on. But, you know, I always respected him because I looked at, for New York, those were like the
moment 50 Cent publicly hinted that a second documentary was already in development, the temperature across the hip-hop world shifted. This wasn't framed as shock value or trolling. It landed quietly, but the reaction was immediate. People didn't panic. They paid attention. Unlike the first project, which focused on one figure and one era, this upcoming installment is being discussed as something broader.
Give you the trophies. I got the checks. I didn't get the trophies. Like, Jay got all trophies, man. That's because he signed that contract.
What contract?
The one with Beyonce. If you don't sign, you don't give him a trophy, she ain't coming. Oh,
Beyonce done ran down on you once, Fifth. Come on.
She did worse. She jumped off the thing, off the ledge. I was like, I didn't really know what to do. That's the Jay. He says to Jay in his face. He'll look at you and go, nah, that happened.
So Beyonce jumped down on you.
She jumped down. Oh, she was like on a windowsill.
Right.
We was in Vegas. She said, come on, I'm talking to her. She jumped down. She was like, duh, duh, duh. And I'm like, wait, what is she doing? That stuff, that's me and JayZ stuff. This ain't got nothing to do with you, girl. Don't come
So Hov wasn't there?
I'm talking to Jay.
Talking to Jay.
As soon as I talked to Jay, she jumped down, came over. I said, oh, look at this.
They about to jump you.
You lucky Solange wasn't there.
Yeah, you lucky Solange wasn't there.
Solange was there. I would have had to reboot. Huh? What?
So what did B say, or she was just staring at you?
Nah, she came like she was ready. She like ready. I thought something was gonna happen. And I'm like, yo, whoa. She's throwing me off now. Because I don't know exactly how to respond to this. You are still Beyonce. Uh-oh. I'm seeing all this stuff going. She going, what is this guy? I'm like, wait, what happened? I look at Jay, he goes, nah.
The emphasis isn't on allegations, but on relationships, proximity, and long-standing industry dynamics that shaped how power moved behind the scenes for decades. That distinction matters. In hip-hop, history isn't erased. It just waits for the right moment to resurface. What made this situation feel heavier was how often Beyonce's name began appearing in conversations, not as a target, but as a variable. Beyonce isn't known for impulsive reactions. She's known for discipline, control, and long-term thinking. When someone with that level of precision goes quiet or begins adjusting their visibility, people read it as strategy, not fear. JayZ, by contrast, has always relied on patience. He doesn't rush to explain himself. He lets moments pass. For years, that approach worked flawlessly. But this time, observers noticed something different. The usual insulation didn't feel as strong. This wasn't about accusation.
50 Cent coming out confirming that he does have more dirt on Diddy that he didn't even get to put in the 4 episodes on the Netflix Diddy documentary. And since it's 50 Cent, it's so hard telling what in the world he all has, but he said this in reference to the video footage that he got of the man recording Diddy before Diddy went to jail. And on top of all of this, he said more people came forward to him with allegations that didn't even make it into this Netflix Diddy documentary. And he alluded that he is about to drop this all on YouTube. He sat down to explain some of this on the Sherry show yesterday, and she said, it shocked a lot of people to see this personal footage of Diddy. I know 50, the way you run, this cannot be all that you have. Is there other stuff that has not been shown? He said, yeah, well, there's some stuff that couldn't make it in because there was only 4 episodes in the Netflix Diddy documentary. And then Sherry asked 50 Cent, does this mean that there's going to be a part 2 of the Netflix Diddy documentary? And he said that he's just going to put it on YouTube. This was not the only time in this interview that this man said this. Like, he is sure on YouTube for whatever reason, and he was even laughing about it. And in my opinion, I feel like why he wants to put this on YouTube is because Netflix probably wouldn't let him put in certain things because of liability. I think this is one of the main reasons why some of the things weren't talked about in the Diddy documentary. But like I said, also, he is cut down to a certain amount of time. Netflix gave him 4 episodes, so he has to put everything in those 4 episodes. And she asked him, out of all of the people that were coming forward, have there been any new tips that you have gotten since it's been released? He said, well, yeah, everyone starts to feel a little more comfortable when they see other people telling their truth about it.
It was about context changing, old footage, Archived interviews and long-dormant industry stories are now being viewed through a completely different lens. Things that once felt irrelevant suddenly carry weight, not because new facts emerged, but because audiences have changed. People are less willing to separate art, business, and influence the way they once did. The idea that Beyoncé might be preparing to distance herself from industry turbulence sparked debate, not because she's abandoning anyone, but because her brand exists beyond any single relationship or alliance. Her career has always been about control over narrative, timing, and legacy. And legacy is fragile. Once conversations shift from admiration to re-examination, silence becomes a calculated move rather than a passive one. Staying visible can sometimes create more risk than stepping back. At the center of this moment is a question that has nothing to do with guilt or innocence, and everything to do with exposure. What happens when power structures built in one era are judged by another? What happens when relationships that once felt normal are suddenly framed as influential? That uncertainty alone is enough to make even the most established figures reassess their position. This isn't chaos, it's pressure, slow, deliberate pressure. And when pressure builds quietly, the people who understand the game best don't react loudly, they reposition. Long before documentaries and social media deep dives, the tension between 50 Cent and JayZ was already part of hip-hop's DNA. It wasn't always loud and it wasn't always personal, but it was persistent. Two men who rose to power in completely different ways were bound to clash, not just musically, but philosophically. JayZ built his rise on controlled access. He moved carefully, choosing partnerships, boardrooms, and moments that strengthened his position without exposing too much of himself. Over time, that approach created an image of stability and inevitability, the sense that he would always land on his feet. 50 Cent took the opposite route. He thrived in confrontation, visibility, and disruption.
I mean, JayZ's on a whole nother level. Like, I mean, you know, he's like, but you know what I like about 50? 50's on a whole nother level, but he's still approachable. You still get to meet the people and you know, Jay got to remember the people that made him. You know, I'm not saying I don't got respect. I respect JayZ, 50, used to respect, you know, Diddy, but all that crazy going on. But, you know, I always respected him because I looked at, for New York, those were like the, you know, the guys. You know what I'm saying? The guys with the most money and the most influence. So with Jay is like, when the last time you haven't seen Jay, so I think people are just gonna say that. You know what I'm saying? But for me, I mean, Jay, you know, you gotta remember, he didn't want 50 at the Super Bowl. That was crazy. I'm like,
wait, Jay didn't want 50 at the Super
you didn't
Bowl?
know that? Yeah, he didn't want.
I remember Eminem pushed for it.
That was some haters. Yeah,
I remember Eminem was like, I'm not gonna do it unless 50 does it. I heard that.
Yeah,
but I didn't know that Jay was trying to stop it.
I don't think Jay. I don't know. 50 never told me that, but I don't think Jay wanted him there. I don't know.
Because of what, some of the.
I mean,
the
you know, it's competition. You got to think. 50 always been competition for Jay. Remember, I'm about $1. What the 50 Cent?
That was a long time ago.
That was what, 9? What was
yeah,
that?
But
9?
But after that, they did a song together. Remember
yeah,
the whole,
of course, but
50
was always competition. Then remember, Jay said, yo, 50's coming. He told Siegel and them, and Memphis Bleak and all them.
Yeah.
And come on, 50's like, he's on a whole nother level. You got to remember, he came after Jay and Rockefeller. G-Unit came, and people might on G-Unit, but with Eminem, Dr. Dre, 50 Cent, nobody has outsold us, bro.
Yeah.
Nobody has had the effect that we had.
When doors closed, he kicked others open. When narratives turned against him, he flipped them into fuel. That difference shaped how each man is viewed today. What's important now isn't who won their past battles. It's how those histories frame the present moment. When someone like 50 speaks with confidence about revisiting old ground, people listen because he survived every attempt to push him out of the culture. This isn't about revenge. At least that's not how it's being positioned. The tone feels more archival than aggressive, more reflective than explosive. That shift matters because it changes how audiences interpret intent. JayZ likely understood long ago that 50 wouldn't disappear. But few expected this type of re-entry. Slow, calculated, and rooted in documentation rather than commentary. That's why the reaction has been cautious instead of confrontational. Beyonce's position in all this is unique. She wasn't part of those early rivalries. She exists on a different plane, global, cross-generational, and largely insulated from industry feuds. That's why her name being drawn into broader discussions raised eyebrows. Not because she's implicated in anything, but because her presence changes the stakes. Her legacy isn't confined to hip-hop culture. It reaches fashion, film, business, and international influence. And when legacies that large face even indirect turbulence, the response is rarely emotional. It's structural. People close to the culture have pointed out that silence worked before. When controversy arose in the past, Beyoncé let time, music, and discipline do the talking. But every strategy has a lifespan. What worked in one era doesn't always translate to another. The audience has changed. The appetite for re-examining power has grown. People are more interested in systems than scandals. That's what makes this moment different. This isn't about pointing fingers.
Time, and Piers Morgan said it, they're not here to defend themselves. Do you think the Carters will speak about any of this? About
Beyonce
what's going on?
is losing hundreds of thousands, millions of followers every day. And she still hasn't said anything. Just pretending like life is great in Paris.
Is it her place to say something?
I mean, probably not, considering she's gonna be indicted for anything she would say. These are criminals. Diddy is a drug dealer, and so is JayZ. The proof is there. How many up people does he have to be around before people see him for who he is?
It seems like these artists are trying to run away from their past. Diddy changed his name multiple times to say, that's not me, I'm trying to move beyond Diddy, I'm love now.
What kind of love? Baby oil love? Baby love? Explicit love, hey!
It's about understanding how influence was built, protected, and maintained. When those questions surface, even the most composed figures have to decide how visible they want to be. And that decision, more than any rumor, is what people are watching right now. One thing nearly everyone agrees on is this. Beyoncé has always understood the power of distance. Not emotional distance, but strategic distance. She doesn't rush into conversations, and she doesn't respond to every wave of noise. Her career has been built on knowing when to speak and, more importantly, when not to. That's why recent shifts in her public presence have sparked discussion, not alarm, discussion. Beyoncé stepping back has never meant weakness. Historically, it has meant recalibration. JayZ operates differently, but with a similar end goal. He has long avoided unnecessary exposure. While others stayed visible at every event and every moment, he limited access, choosing privacy and structure over saturation. That approach helped him move through decades of industry change with minimal public friction. Former industry insiders have often described this contrast without accusing anyone of wrongdoing. It's simply about how power was managed. Some figures thrive by being everywhere. Others thrive by being selective. In the past, that selectiveness acted like armor, but cultural expectations evolve. What once looked like discretion can now be interpreted as distance, and distance invites questions. This isn't about guilt, it's about optics. In a time when audiences are actively reevaluating institutions, influence, and long-standing relationships, even neutral decisions are read symbolically. Silence can feel strategic. Absence can feel intentional. That's why observers believe Beyoncé may be weighing how much proximity is worth, not to one person, but to a moment in history that's being re-examined.
I know people in the industry, been around for a long time, was there when he first started dating Beyonce at 17, 18, he was 30-something. You didn't know his age. When I look back and see how old JayZ was, I think JayZ was born in like 69 or 67, something like that, 67 right there, 69. I think he was born in 69. Beyonce, they say she was born in 81. You understand? But back then, in 81, when we was in the club together, 98, 99, she wasn't even supposed to be in the club, but she was in the club. It was Club Eugene's, and Jay was dating her. And at that time, if you look at Jay's age, he was about 30 years old. So, isn't she still somewhat a child? To me, she is. But I guess they protect child. That's how you protect a child, you know, dating her at the age of 30-some years old and she's 17, 18 years old. If that's her true age. We really don't know her true age because Gabrielle Union said she went to junior high school with her, and Gabrielle Union is considered 6, 7 years older than Beyonce age that she getting. So we really don't know.
Her legacy stands independently. It doesn't rely on defending anyone else's choices or past associations. JayZ, meanwhile, has rarely addressed speculation directly. For decades, letting time pass solved most issues, but time moves differently now. Digital memory doesn't fade. Old footage resurfaces without warning. Context shifts overnight. This creates a situation where staying quiet may protect in the short term, but create ambiguity in the long term. That ambiguity isn't dangerous on its own, but it changes how narratives form.
JayZ has now had an
the real
official
tension
lawsuit
here isn't about what
everywhere.
anyone did or
It's
didn't
now
do.
being talked
It's about how
louder
history
than
is
ever.
interpreted when it's
I guess, does that
revisited
give you
without
some
the
peace
original
to know that
context.
people are finally really questioning this man?
It's emboldening me. I spoke on Piers Morgan. I said that I had 3 victims that I've been working with, victims of the Carters, that were ready to come forward. This might help them feel a little more confident now. So this is great because he's been evading. But the thing is, everyone in the backdrop knew that he was the celebrity John Doe. Everybody knew that. They knew it when I did Piers Morgan.
Is Beyonce celebrity B?
I hope to God not. But she was around. And she's very... she's got enough on her plate. After everything that happened with the election and everything that's happening right now, I'm not going to dump on that woman. She got better fish to fry.
Well,
what I
look,
will say is that her husband, she knows exactly who he is.
Yeah.
She knows.
And once interpretation starts, control becomes harder to maintain. For a long time, JayZ existed in a space that felt almost untouchable. Criticism came and went, stories surfaced and faded, but nothing ever seemed to stick long enough to change his position. That wasn't accidental. It was the result of careful positioning, selective visibility, and an understanding of how narratives move through media. But moments like this test even the strongest shields. What people are noticing now isn't outrage, it's hesitation. The usual defenses haven't appeared. There's no rush from allies to frame the story, no coordinated push to redirect attention. That absence feels unusual, and in the modern attention economy, absence creates its own narrative. Longtime industry voices have pointed out that JayZ has rarely faced sustained curiosity at this scale. Not hostility, curiosity. And curiosity is harder to control because it doesn't come with a single argument to defeat. It spreads quietly, through questions rather than accusations. This shift matters. In the past, controversies were often reactive. A headline appeared, a response followed, and the cycle moved on.
Diddy used to hate JayZ. He hated JayZ enough when he was trying to get Ja Rule to go at JayZ. This is back in the early 2000s.
Did Diddy always say negative things about Jay around you?
The time he was trying to get Ja Rule to go at Jay, yeah, he was. They worked it out.
Was there a reason behind it?
I couldn't tell you the reason behind it. It's probably because Big had died. I don't know what it was, man. I don't know why he wanted Ja Rule to go at Jay. I guess if he kept them beefing or kept them into some bullshit, he could rise up in between both of them. You know what I mean?
They're the ones who protected their legacy when attention shifted. And that, more than any documentary or headline, is the real story unfolding right now.